Well, hello. Fancy menu here on a Friday night. I hope you're all fabulous. You got through the week. Those who are joining us from far away, I hope you are all safe with the hobo that is Albert, working out what the hell that he wants to do up there on the GC and Northern New South Wales. We're going to find out right away now what is going on with him, and let's get into it. Without delay. And welcome to anybody else who's from around the place too, any hunter friends who are joining us. I'm not sure what's going on with them. I've been asked a few times, I have no idea. I did reach out to them through social media, through obviously the page, and also personally wise. I haven't heard from them, so I just hope they're okay. I really do hope they're okay, because they were having issues with their little furry things. Yeah. Thoughts towards those people. Okay, so don't forget about our socials. Shameless plug before we get into information. We're all over the media now with on that ticky-tocky thing with all the young and hip peeps and the Insta and the X, whatever you want to call it these days. But we're there just to check for Sydney with the Nerds, or on X it's Sid Wex Nerds, because you can't have a long word on there, of course. No, let's go. Alright, so latest updates from the JCWC, not out long ago. It is just off the coast, Alfred, off Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Its intensity is holding at 50 knots, so nearly 100 k's an hour. Slowly creeping along at 2 knots, which is actually hindering itself and not helping itself. Still massive waves, though, which is not good for storm surge. And you see some of the videos that we published just even today, about some of the storm surge we've seen up there on the southeast Queensland. Just incredible. Satellite analysis, Alfred is crawling towards the coast, almost fully exposed with convection clinging to the southern semicircle. But it's actually got better in the southern semicircle, so I think that JCWC is a little bit behind the ball. But anyway, we'll see what the viewers are going to say in a minute. Still that strong vertical wind shear though, and don't forget wind shear is basically layers of winds in the atmosphere, and tropical cyclones love a nice peaceful surface atmosphere above the surface. It can be chaos and hell on the surface, they don't care. Above that, it must be peaceful and calm and namaste for tropical cyclones to really get going. As we talked about a number of times, Alfred has become sort of a hybrid. He's a bit of a warm and a bit of a cold. He's actually the ultimate Aussie, just every day, everywhere, everything, all at once. That was a great movie, by the way, if you've never seen it. It's hard to get into at the start, but absolutely hilarious. Okay. The SSTs is something that there is some difference between the JCWC and the Bureau. I'm not sure, but his speed actually has hindered that the sea surface temperatures, of course, because of that churn, and he's basically sucking every single inch of warmth out of that top layer of the ocean. So it'll sort of run out soon, but he'll hopefully be gone by then. And they're still struggling that dry air ingestion from both the northern, northeastern and northwestern sides. But he exists, he still goes. They've got a handy little model thing called a phase space plot, which basically goes through and just gives like an x-ray of the cyclone, and they still say he's got a deep warm core, which is basically what's helping to obviously survive. But of course his structure still looks asymmetric, which is basically not circular like a nice big circle that we normally see with tropical cyclones, and that's that hybrid subtropical type features that we've been talking about for a couple of days. The Dvorak estimates, which is the special way they rate this thing, they look at a whole range of things. Still says between 42 to 47 knots, which is the 50 knot intensity that they've got. And there is basically not far from having good night Irene and away it goes. And they're not forecasting anything after that at this stage. You're going to give up and sort of look around the world and see what else is going on. There's actually not much happening around the world at the moment. So Alfred's been quite lucky in terms of he's had the bureaus and the JWC's undivided attention, even though sort of weak systems off the eastern South African or southeastern South African coast have sort of disappeared into nothing. Alright, Bureau, let's go. Current status, again, pretty much close to where JWC had it. They had it actually a bit stronger at 55 knots, 100k an hour, and gusts to 75 knots, 140k an hour. And when I show you Doppler soon, that does actually pretty much agree with that. West to west movement, so they have a bit of a different movement to what JWC had, and this is basically fresh off the plot from the Bureau, so that is interesting in itself. And I'm not sure if JWC are a little bit behind the ball, or the Bureau have seen something that the JWC haven't had, but yeah, 978 hectopascals though is actually still pretty damn low. And it won't take much deepening to get him into that category 3 phase mine either, but I'm not sure that there's enough left of the coastline or sea or him to get that done. Deep convection is persisting south of the centre. We'll look at some satellite pictures very soon. You can have a look at that, incredible. And there's heavy rain gales impacting a whole range of a slab of coast. Interestingly, know that basically sort of Gold Coast up to Brisbane has sort of been spared a bit of the rain, which is interesting because of what the models forecast, and that's basically because of his speed, and really it's also the range to the south of the Gold Coast. And again, where Mount Warning is, whatever that range is, the eastern extension of the Great Dividing Range is actually blocking quite a lot of the convection and stuff getting through to the Gold Coast. But that should change as Alfred does make that swing back towards the coast, and starts to get across the coast overnight and into tomorrow. We should start to see quite a lot of activity, but he's done unusual things so far, and he'll probably still do unusual things ahead of this time. But they also use the Varroc analysis, and they actually rated a bit higher, which is interesting again. But the organisation is starting to struggle because that's the impact of the coast, of course, and he's starting to sort of get that influence of his system scraping the coast and just sort of slowing the winds down, a bit of drag, and that doesn't help. The cyclone is already struggling, all the stuff above it, trying to take him out. Shear, they remain the same thing, they say it's still high, but it is actually relaxing according to the Bureau, this has just come out not long before I popped online here, so this is fresh. And so they say will actually allow Alfred to hold intensity. He still may just pop up a little bit yet. The Doppler is still looking quite interesting with winds, especially on the northwestern side, which is where he's sort of pushing into at the moment. And see what this is here. SST is near 27. Sorry, sea surface temperature is near 27 degrees, which is again nearly 2 degrees difference to what JWC had, and that's actually quite significant because 27 degrees will support tropical cyclone development and also intensification, whereas 25, 26 won't. So they're saying the land's going to sort of slow him down a bit, which it will as his vorticity gets closer. He'll start to catch the drag, as I said, and he'll start to unwind. But again, that stacked mid-level vorticity, or the core engine of that they talked about yesterday, still exists. So who knows? I guess we'll find out in the next 12 hours or so. All right, let's go. The Bureau's track is pretty much not dissimilar to JWC's, but it's still quite a bit of variance. You can see there this large slab of gale force winds, and then we've got these destructive regional damaging winds here, which is this red part. That does expect them to come across in the northern Gold, or the central Golden Coast and the northern Gold Coast, really anytime from very soon overnight through to early tomorrow morning, when it'll eventually plough inland. There's pretty likelihood that red core of destructive and damaging winds will get right through across into Brisbane before it starts to unwind, just depending on the last track that Alfred does take, and he's been wobbling around and changing. You can see here I actually flagged you this morning about the wobbles and stuff that he'd been doing, so he's been a very pernicious beast. Alright, let's go. So the final takeaway is really as Alfred remains at this stage a 55 knot system, and it's not a category 3 as yet. with a big asterisk next to that. Landfall expected, Saturday morning, I'd say between 9 a.m. and midday. At this stage, we'll look at models again in depth, but that's pretty what it looks like to be about 9 a.m. to midday at latest. Although Icon again is sort of throwing, some interesting scenarios out, but we'll look at her in a minute, or him, whatever you want to call it. Flooding still is risk is high, especially if that core and the persistent, intense and aggressive convection on the southern side as it starts to come in and starts to swing in towards the coast. Well, if it does, at this stage, it's been quite problematic, the rainfall forecasting for Alfred. But I guess we'll see. If you're in the northern rivers of New South Wales, it's been pretty accurate, but the southeastern Queensland sort of been up and down a bit. The overall takeaway is intensity may fluctuate slightly before landfall, but obviously it's going to weaken as expected after across the coast. Well, that's quite par for the course, really. And slow moving impacts is pretty what's going to be the real issue again, and that will help or not help depending on your perspective. Obviously the rain accumulation totals and also wind damage and wind risks, and also storm surge, which is pretty significant at this stage still. The beaches are getting an absolute smashing, and imagine as it gets closer and closer, they're going to breach those dunes in many places, and unfortunately there's going to be pretty a lot of damage, probably from northern New South Wales right up through to the southern Gold Coast. And as I said, he refuses to leave quietly, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, basically. And wobbling coastal menace. I did like that, quite frankly. A wobbling coastal menace. Sounds like some sort of drone or something. All right, let's go. So just a quick reminder about pets and animals. You should be getting them inside pretty now. Make sure you get all that food, water, meds, and the piddle pads. In the storm itself, depending on whereabouts you are, it will get chaotic. It will be, winds. It'll be quite obviously howling. There'll be sort of loud banging and clanging as things are sort of thrown around in gusts. Make sure they're in a place they can look after themselves and nice and quiet and dark and keep them chill. And then after it goes, again, stress. Please don't lose your life just so your pet can go outside. Please look after everybody. Check around first. Check for hazards. And yeah, I imagine in this day and age, pretty a lot of the mobile phone towers should still be okay, so you should still have internet. Give a quick check of the SES or QSES where you've got, and see if they've got any reports of any hazards in your areas. That mapping they've got is actually pretty awesome. You can drill right down into almost your street level, so they'll give you an idea if there's flooding or there's power lines down or there's trees and stuff down. Check that out. I mean, the other thing don't forget is it could be a tree down in your backyard, for example, and the fence could be open and you let little Freddo out for a pee in the backyard and he runs away. And the cat's pretty not going to run away. You're actually pretty happy it does, but just joking, all the cat lovers there. I'm a cat lover out there, storm cats out there, no doubt pretty trying to get in to say that he will. And of course, please, it's pretty too late to get to the centre now if you're in some places, but if you still have that capacity and the roads aren't closed or flooded, and you are in risk areas, double check before you rock up with your animals. We don't want to put everybody in danger. Alright, let's go. Models now, let's go for the next 12 to 24 hours and see what happens. So, JWC maintain the west to southwest track expected over the next 12 hours, and then with a slight kink towards west-northwest as it hits across through Moreton Island and basically to Brisbane Airport. And they're saying landfall is likely north of Brisbane between time after update 24 to 36 hours, which is late tonight, which is obviously not going to happen. Tomorrow morning sometime, so you can see this update from them is actually pretty a bit late. Intensity is going to hold, although they reckon clearly it's going to weaken post crossing. I mean that goes without saying. And the cooling waters, well, we'll see. The track confidence is high. The intensity confidence is mean, which have been pretty much all over the place anyway. So, and they do actually say that UK Met leans to a bit further north about crossing, but the general consensus is Moreton Bay approach for their perspective. The Bureau, likely Saturday morning across Moreton Bay Islands, which is what every sort of consistency is saying now. They say intensity holds at 50 to 55 knots, weakening inland, which is again part of the course. It does 5 or so knots, starts looking at Cat 3 too, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. Heavy rainfall, of course, and gale force winds are already impacting a lot of areas. And there's a possible slight north-south track wobbles as upper trough influence increases. Now that's something I really appreciate them saying, because that's something that we can be keeping an eye on ourselves, because that's eventually what's going to impact and drive Alfred into his next phase, which is the potential dive south. So that north-south track could bring it a little bit closer or take a little bit further away before it does in. And he's sort of, 10 or 15 Ks or even 20 Ks now in timing could mean the difference between 5 or 10 knots in intensity, either getting stronger or getting weaker. So it's a very interesting time. He's being an absolute pain in the backside. Their track confidence is high. They're basically a strong agreement between all the models, which we'll see very soon about where it crosses. Again, that little wobble could make a difference of 10 and 15 Ks, but overall with a cyclone that's a couple of hundred Ks in diameter, eventually it's not going to make much difference. But I guess it makes a difference to people living in that area where they get sort of eye wall or they get sort of out of bands. The intensity confidence again with them is obviously medium as well, because they're saying, some of them say weakening, some others hold at 50-55 knots. But in general they're saying that there's still quite strong support in the models for a lot of rain, especially along the southeast Queensland and North New South Wales coastal areas, of course exposed escarpments. Alright, let's go into Sydney impacts now for us next 96 hours. Okay, so obviously tomorrow we've got the forecast out already. That's really not a really Alfred influence forecast, because he is now starting to push on shore, and his influence in that respect, the outer city influence will contract greatly towards him. And what we've got is this upper ridge and upper trough sort of situation sucking the air into him, and that's going to sort of indicate what's going to happen in the next few days. We will still see some the gusty southeast is what we've had, may even tweak more easterly, which if it does tweak more easterly, then I expect the temperatures may fluctuate a little bit warmer because of the obviously the warmer sea surface temperatures to our northeast, and the longer fetch of the winds coming from the sort of east as opposed to southeast. There is the potential for this ECL, and we'll look at the models very soon. I mean, it's been up and down every single run, so it's been incredibly difficult to try and guess what he's going to do. I'm going with like an overall sort of model consensus, or basically rolling into one, which is generally it looks like he's a core coming this way, and generally it looks like there's going to be some sort of interactivity on the coast, off the coast, just near the coast, and some sort of circulation, whether it's him again just firing up, or it's going to be him firing up, it's not going to be another circulation. And that's that stacked mid-level vorticity, so that's the idea where he could actually transition into an ECL, because it won't be the surface initiating this convection, it'll be that mid-level and upper sort of stuff. But we'll keep an eye on that. It's not locked in yet. This is just a flag. It's a possibility, as we've said quite strongly in our post. Of course, if that does happen, of course, it increases the flood risk along the Hawkesbury, Nepean and Illawarra catchments. If it does form near us, expect an upgrade in wind and rain warnings, of course. If it does form near us, it's likely to drift south and keeping us wet and windy, possibly into Tuesday, Wednesday. It says Monday there, but I think maybe longer. It just depends. Other models, which we'll see in a minute, I think have it sort of pushing again north and washing out across the coast. This is the problem. It's just like it's been inconsistent in its track for southeast Queensland, and it looks like it's going to keep up that potential in the long term, or until anyway it gets through us. GFS and Icon did have the low stalling near us for a couple of days in the earlier runs. I haven't checked the latest run, because that's obviously our little thing that we do together. So pull up your rug blanket, your blanket, get your little basket, your picnic out, grab a vino or a wine or a Moscato or a beer or whatever you're into, a cider, or even some spirits, because you're probably going to need them, because you've heard me waffling on now for a good 20 minutes. You're probably almost into a coma. But there is that potential again, of course, that storm, and that's also another interaction with those upper systems that are going to be hanging around and coming around. It is just an absolute mess to forecast. So as I said, I'm going with a sort of smooth forecast at this stage, but obviously we'll keep you updated and see what happens next. And of course, if it does intensify, then we can expect damaging wind gusts and obviously that heavy rainfall, just about depending on exactly where we are, and that is the Hunter, that's the Illawarra, and the us, of course, all potentially in the firing line. Again, it depends whereabouts he crosses the coast and whereabouts he decides to set up his next little sojourn, and so that will greatly depend upon just exactly what impacts you have. Like if it's further south, then basically the Hunter, you'll get a bit of rain, burst of rain pretty Sunday night and early Monday, and that probably it'll start to get a bit of a clearing pattern. If it's a bit closer to you, then of course the us in the Illawarra will also probably get prolonged or longer impacts because of that southerly in squeezing that we've seen currently infecting the northern New South Wales. Of course, that same interaction and convergence zone will still be with him as he's pushing down towards the pole, and of course as he's pushing against the systems. That's where the greatest impact on weather will be. All right, let's go. So I think we're up to models time. Are you excited for models? Because I am. Let's get that up and get Windy to look at, and let's see what we are in for. Alright, so let's start with icon. Make sure that, this is probably actually going to be 06, who cares, it's going to be. Alright, so this is where icon currently thinks it is, which is pretty about right. And this is obviously the wind gusts on the screen at the moment, so that's where those pretty colours are and the lines are. We'll look at radar and satellite picture very soon. So you can see here, icon is still flagging this bit of intensification to 76 or 80 knots, which is, still, it's pretty almost borderline Cat 3 actually. So this is why I keep flagging with you, like icon has been pretty consistent so far, but we'll see. I think it just has it a little bit further off the coast, I'm not sure. You can see the eye now starting to wobble a bit, and that is definitely indication that it's starting to feel the effects of that coastline. Now you can see, this is the only concern I had, again, because it has a bit more of a west-southwest or even a southwest kink than the other models do. You're going to get this band of very strong winds, and it's going up nearly almost 80 knots, which is category 3, which is why I've been saying that as it comes ashore, especially on the southern side. So that's Gold Coast, basically the whole Gold Coast, and that very far northern rivers or North New South Wales location, as you can see. And that is the concern from me anyway, but you can see it definitely comes ashore, and I said between 9 and 12. I hadn't seen the models yet, and you can see 9 and 12. And a little bit further south, so just south of Brisbane Airport, which is going to pretty make a difference. Well, guess we'll see. Still, it's going to be getting a pummeling. So anywhere north of the system is going to be not as bad. As you can see, the winds are still around Moreton Island and Brisbane, though. It's still going to be quite hectic. And you can see the Gold Coast and stuff is really copping the biggest part of it along here. And that's because of the way he's actually moving. That little southwesterly movement is going to be pushing right against that system to the south as well, which is enhancing, and a bit of topographical influences as well. So that's not going to be good for storm surge at all, or along the Gold Coast. If icon comes up, you can see it's basically still coming right off the sea. That is going to inundate and cause a pretty decent storm surge right in that areas. And you can see now icon's starting to unwind, and you can see those winds really starting to back down to almost below the severe threshold across the coast. In fact, early Sunday morning, you can see those winds are really dying off now and almost back to sort of normal. It's like a pleasant sea breeze on Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning. All right, so let's go and check. We're just going to focus on Alfred first and this area, and then we'll go and look at what the longer term impacts are for us. All right. Next up, EC. Let's have a look at that. I'm just going to confirm that's the 0Z. Yes, beautiful. Okay, so you can see EC aerodynamically larger elongated eye, which means that it's a little bit less as intense as what icon had it. And you can see here this 60 or something knot winds, which is that's still going to be impacting the Gold Coast. And it says from tonight, we'll see. And you can see that eye start to really get that sort of egg-shaped elongation. So you can see that's the consequences of actually interacting with land. You can see EC is a little bit quicker to push it ashore, which is what Bureau Energy used to be seeing. You can see there it really does push ashore very quick. Still some pretty strong winds for the Gold Coast, and there's still going to be that issue of storm surge. You can see here because that wind's coming straight in, and there's nothing to stop that coming in now. But you can see that further north, so it actually takes it up into really into the bottom of the Sunshine Coast there, which is nothing. Which is a bit further north than even the Bureau and GWC, which is interesting, and it's still pushing it sort of northwest now, which is fascinating. I think EC is off the ball there, and it brings a pretty gale force northeasterly flow through the Brisbane and through the Sunshine Coast, behind you. Yeah, I think they're pretty dense to scan EC. I don't think anybody mentioned EC in that their outlook, and you can see it just washing out very quickly. so conditions will ease, but they basically have it coming in short overnight tonight now, so we'll check radar obviously very soon, we'll see what that's going, but I don't think that's the scenario. So EC, bit of a misview at this stage. We'll see, find out. All right, let's go with get far away soon. Well, I mean, it's already wrong. So, and you can see that large elongated eye, and that's because it's such a low res model. It's smoothed out, and it's basically just guessing. So I think that's pretty not worth even looking at. And insofar as it does pretty have it coming down the Moreton Bay through the Moreton Islands there, and Brisbane and Brisbane Airport, pretty much what the tracker said, and washes out very quickly over land. So not much there for the old GFSE. All right, the last one is going to we'll look actually at two now. We'll look at Axis and then we'll look at the high res Axis model, because it's going to cover the whole period now. It's only limited to like 36 hours. It's really lame to look at. No, we won't do that. We won't go here. All right, Axis. So Axis is pretty reasonably high resolution. It's 12 kilometers, and you can see again here, it's actually got that 75, 76 knot, which is borderline category 3. So the Bureau has actually done, itself a good service there. This is the thing again, Axis has still got that 80 knot burst on the southeastern side. When I show you Doppel, it's interesting, there's actually some very strong winds up here on the northern side, northwestern side too. And again, it's sort of maintaining this 30 knots. So which is interesting, it hasn't mentioned, the Bureau doesn't mention its own model in its own outlooks, which is disappointing. It obviously has no confidence in it. You can see timing still actually got great structure. Look at that little tight eye. And those people on that sort of around the area may even get a chance to look up into, into the sky. And I don't think you're going to get the stadium effect, which is that effect where you look up in the middle of a tropical cyclone or a hurricane. And it's because it's clear and the storm clouds are that massive. It looks like you're in like a stadium. I think Alfred's a bit sloppy and loose and wide. I don't think you're going to see that, but still a very tight, low-level circulation center, as you can see there. And then now you can see it starting to unwind, because it's gone from having basically no wind. You can see now there's winds around the circle, so you can see it's starting to really lose its impact. But interestingly, still the Gold Coast, Brisbane and south to the Gold Coast and northern New South Wales are still copping probably the worst aspect of it as it goes right through Moreton Bay, and then does that sort of northwest kink like Axis had, but nowhere, and then does drag. Like you see that, then does drag this. Sustained 60 knots northeasterly, so Gold Coast starts to get a bit of a reprieve, but then Brisbane and up to the Sunshine Coast are going to get waxed by this, and that's what those lingering effects that the Bureau did talk about in their forecast. Then he does plough, and then you can see those will start to back off very quickly, and in the Sunday morning is basically it's northeasterly flow right down, which is flowing into Alfred. Alright, and we'll go quickly now and check the high res for you, and then we'll look what's coming for us. Alright, so this is the high res model. This is, you can see it's very limited in its range, and you can see it's actually a 1.5 kilometer resolution, so it's modeling down to pretty small grids. So it's you'd think it'd be better, but interesting. You can see this sort of elongated wobbly shape central of the low level convection center, sort of picking up, so the impacts on land already, and you can see here it really does narrow it down quite dramatically. So there's a bit of intensification there. You can see 50, 60 knots through the Gold Coast, and that's again not going to help storm surge because of that, just the way the wind's coming straight off the sea. It's not like it's coming up from the south and getting sort of caught in tweed heads anymore. It's coming straight in unimpeded, and that'll obviously assist or make worse the rain from whatever your perspective is. And of course then it does go straight through, down across the coast through Moreton Bay, and again there's that weird little northern kink, which is that north-south kink that the Bureau did talk about with the influence of that upper trough or upper ridge and then ridge as well. And then you can see then it kicks it back to the south west, and then it actually accelerates away quite rapidly. Again with that period sustained gales and northeasterly gales for the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane, but Gold Coast starts to get a reprieve, and then you can see basically the winds will start to ease right down into Sunday, and business will start to return to normal, depending on obviously what damage has happened overnight or into tomorrow. So if you've got an average of that system, you sort of say overnight, 9 o'clock, maybe even midday, if it does have that kick. It's going to be all dependent upon exactly what that last little direction is. So still not over yet. I'm sorry to say, people, there's still not a lot of certainty in that, although there is a consistent pattern now about bringing it across somewhere around this region here. And the worst impacts are going to be Brisbane and south for the first part, and then once it gets across land, they'll quickly transfer to north of Brisbane for a period of time, and then Sunday morning, Sunday lunchtime, it should have cleared for everybody. Rightio, let's go and have a quick look at radar and satellite picture probably won't be any good this time or not. We can look at the IR. Let's go and we will look at radar. Alright, this is combined here, so you guys should be getting smashed in the Goldie now. If that's the case. That's good to see, because you did miss out quite a lot today, but it looks like you can see just how broad the eye is out here somewhere. There's probably, this is the mass here that you've got to really worry about, because that's going to come straight through you guys, and that's what's sort of been caught by that, that extension of the escarpment right along here, the Great Dividing Range. No longer is that going to be into play, because as he moves to that sort of kink to the northwest or west, or what do you call it, this sort of north-south wobble, that will allow this to sort of come up, and you can see it's quite intense. What we need to do is keep an eye on the radar for lightning, so keep an eye on if you've got access to radar. This is the last hour. You can see just really hammering in you guys now, basically anywhere south of Brisbane. Brisbane still miss out a bit, so it's pretty good from that perspective. This banding here will start to move up towards Brisbane, so you should see conditions start to deteriorate pretty within the next 45 minutes to an hour, I think. Again, you can see this hawking around, so the eye is definitely not making its way towards the coast just yet. You can see that this hook in the last few frames, there's that slight, actually I don't know if I can speed this up a bit for you. I don't think I can, which is annoying. Let's go blue, it might give us a bit more cleaner. I wonder if I can actually hold that myself and manually for it, because I think, no, I can't drag it, sorry. Watch this last little kink here. And this is what I've been watching. See here how it starts to move more to like the north? That's that kink at the bureau, that north-south wobble, which says to me that Icon is putting more in the money than Axis is, or EC this is. You can just see the last minute, which is going to allow this mass to kick north a bit more. And that's what you're watching. So you see this, there is a lot of rain in the back here. The radar is just attenuated. You don't pick it up because it's just so thick, but this is the area that's going to sort of drag across in the next 24 hours or so, and that's where most of your weather and rain is going to come from. You can see a real clear delineation here between these bands and this sort of interior sort of outer bands of Albert too. So this is like these inner bands, and this is these outer bands, and there's a real, this is that impact of that shear and that dry air as well. So it's still really fighting that, but he's putting up a brave sort of thing. Alright, so we can go now to forecast rain for you, and let's just see what it's going to show. And you get this smearing sort of effect, you get this sort of hexagon sort of showing effect, but it'll just show you where the rain's going to go, where the models think it's going to go. And as you see, they can see here, it's really starting to spread right inland. I wouldn't trust that they're sort of giving off too much on the Gold Coast here. I think it's going to persist. And the hexagons where it actually was and where it basically forecast the rain to go, I'm not sure that's the case. I'm interested to know what model this is based off this rain. I think it's nowcast, okay, there you go. Alright, so we've looked at, now what I want you to do, show you next, is I was going to prepare it off screen for you, is just a loop of the Doppler winds today, and then I'll bring that out. Here we go. Of course it's not going to play for me. Go. Come on. Go. Oh, I hate this sometimes. I hate you sometimes. I'll open with good. I'll open with Chrome and to you. There we go. Okay. So let's see if we can make this bigger for you. Can't. Let's just zoom in a bit more. Maybe make it full screen. Can make that full screen. Anyway, doesn't matter. You can see here. We'll screen down a bit. This is the area here that I want you to look at, which is this brownness here. That's actually not no winds. That's actually off coming back on the scales. That's actually really strong, very strong winds here, which is interesting because the model's actually picked up as the weakness area. So, you know, as I said, like this, the models only see one thing, they don't see everything. You can see these little red, they're probably water spouts and vorticities and all sorts of things going on here. That's again also extremely strong winds. These are all water spouts, probably even tornadoes associated with a really strong convection on its southern side. So, you know, and you can see what I'm saying about that range deflecting a bit of the winds for you guys, and you can see at the last couple of frames start to actually get past that and push in, because as he sort of gets north of that sort of influence of that range, you'll start to get more stuff driving ashore, both in terms of from basically Tweed Heads all the way up through into the Sunshine Coast. You can see that starting to impact the very bottom edge of the Sunshine Coast as well. I can't speak today. Alright, let's go for the radar, the satellite picture loop. Now, shall I try you, or should you go? You're going to be naughty again. Or you're going to be naughty again. Alright. We'll just go here again. And we'll see, this is what I want to show you here. This is a 24-hour loop of, 12-hour loop, because obviously there's no visual. This is the visual satellite picture too. So you see, this is the interesting thing. There is this low level circulation center. You can see his little heart spinning away. Look at how tight he is down there. It'd be just beautiful to be actually underneath. You can see like really just quite strong. You see that little wobble that, and this is how the Bureau has been pinpointing. So this is the interesting thing here. See those massive storms exploding. That's what's probably coming into you now. And you can see that's that real surge towards you that I was talking about on that southern edge. And that little northward kick that the Bureau is talking about, you can see when it did go to the north, it actually fired those storms up, and as soon as they go back to the west and southwest again, these sort of fired up on the southern side. That's actually coming towards you and pushing ashore, and still waddling away there, right there at this stage, I think. So still pretty well off the coast, and not started that sort of movement towards the coast like they were expecting. Okay, so let's go back to the big question, which is what next for good old Alfred? Okay, so we're going to have to zoom out a bit here. I'm actually going to try and check the hurricane tracker and see if it's updated yet, or it's still going to say 9 hours ago. Yeah, you bugger. Okay, but it doesn't matter. We can still look at what they're looking at, and then we can go. Oh my God, I do that every night, don't I? We can see what they're looking at, and then we'll go, obviously, and have a look at the actual model. So this is BRE is there just tropical cyclone model. You can see it has that hook to the south, or to the southeast. So does UK Met, again, has a sort of bobble away and then hook to the southeast. Axis is the one. This is the 9Z, so it has changed quite significantly, what I'm understanding, but you can see it's just all over the place, and that's that influence from the south here, kicking around. If I was to speed up to like this day here, you can see that influence sort of bobbling around, but we'll see what it's going to show for us very soon, the 0Z model. And this is EC, what it was also showing right now, going north. Well, I think that's changed again, but who knows. I don't see it going north at this stage. It's just that little north-south movement that the Bureau did pick. And I think it's getting caught there, because you can see here Sunday, I think that's just the speed it had, and don't forget this is 9 hours old. Alright, let's go. Without further ado, let's look at what it's going to forecast heading into. So I'm just going to make sure this is 0Z, make sure it's all refreshed, ready to go, so it doesn't make us look like idiots. Okay, so here we go. So there's him coming ashore, we kick him on Saturday, blah, 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 blah. And now, so this is that little north-south kick that they picked up. Let's see what it goes here. And then it starts that southerly dip. Now, is it going to get fast enough? And here it comes. You can see it's dropped quite quickly, and you can see it's still quite decent in the middle levels. Now, this is wind gusts. Now, what I'm talking about mid levels, you're going to think, what the hell are we talking about? Okay, this is wind gusts always at surface. So what I need to do is then change it back to winds. And what I do is I need to change here, and if I show you, that's always this problematic. there's what it starts to talk about when I talk about a stacked vorticity. You can see the surface winds very much. This is what is generating here. You can see it's actually very aggressive and very strong, and that's only 750 meters above the sea, above surface level. So if we go a bit further, you can see here he's very organized and very strong at those mid levels, which is what's going to drive him going forward. Now, this is the other systems. If I go to the other systems that they're talking about, these are the sort of systems that are driving him. You can see here, this is what's going to drive him towards the southeast if it does make it. You can see massive pushing through, and this upper high here, or the upper ridge, actually that's an upper low, sorry, and this is the upper low that, or upper trough that the Bureau are talking about, which is giving that little bob. You can see here, Monday here, and if I go back to this part here, and you'll see it come through. This is here, the upper, this big upper trough that's come through, and just gives them that little bob. You can see this sort of pushing up against the here, and then as it comes up, you can see it starts to bulge, and then there's this weakness. You heard me maybe mention before about weaknesses in the steering, like the steering level, that sort of stuff. They always look for these like little areas. So you can see it bobbles it up north, and then as it starts to weaken itself, this is the weakness here, and then goes, "Ooh, thank you very much," and then slides right down the area of least resistance, and then you can see this is what then drives it sort of back, this system coming through here as well, and drives it to the south and southeast, and this is sort of starts to move that way here. You can see bang moving it down, bang moving it down. Alright, so we're going to go back here, and we've actually got to scroll the show, so I need to go back to surface level here. I'll take the 925 or 950 because this gives you a better picture. You can see here, it's a much better organised system above the air surface because it's away from that vertical wind shear, I guess, in that areas. Alright, let's kick through to Sunday. We saw that he was going to be there, and then we can see he starts to intensify again as he pushes down towards us, and this is where it gets, where we find out whether what's going to happen. I haven't seen this, so we're looking at it together. So you can see here, this is the influence of that upper systems, and you can see how strong those northeasterlies are going on the coast. You can see that little bend, which is what we're keeping an eye on. Now, if we go to surface here, this is where it gets messy because you find, I haven't seen this with you guys, so you can see this little hook here trying to form off the Hunter Coast, and again, still there, still forming off the Hunter Coast. Now I'll zoom in a bit. You can see here, this is so, a bit of him here, a bit of him here, and he's literally trying to get over the coast, and then of course EC now washes it out, whereas before in this morning it actually gets up the coast, and this is what I'm saying about timing. Every model run between the morning run and the evening run, it has done this for the last 3 days. One run takes it off the coast and explodes, the other run keeps it inland, and this is what's been hella frustrating. But you can see this little bend is still here, this little hook is still here. So, I don't think it's locked in exactly yet what it's going to do. Alright, let's check access now, and see what it's got in store. So he's still up there, so we can just skip on moving around. So here he comes down now, you can see still a pretty structured circulation. Again, both have that southward dip, both have him sort of winding up again into Monday, both have this strong northeasterly stuff. You can see that hooking into the coast. You can see here, he's loosely here now. So I haven't watched this, so we watched this together. And you can see there's still this hooking coming in here. What is the axis going to do? Still here, but not moving towards the coast. And then you can see he bumps back as a result of this system coming up. Doesn't get across in time, bumps it back up to the north. And you can see here, and away he goes again, and we're back into this east-northeasterly stream. So it pushes it away. So obviously timing's going to be hugely different, and the morning runs are saying he's going to get down in time, and which is the overnight runs, and intensify. And of course the day runs are going, nah, he's not going to make it in time. So this is the tussle that we've got going here. Again, so it's just so frustrating, so frustrating. Alright, let's have a check of Icon, and then we'll check GFS and see what it has to say. Sorry about that, clicked the wrong thing. We need to go here and click Icon. Okay, so Icon still has it up here, which is not surprising. And then same sort of timeline, you can see that southerly dip. and into Monday comes down here, sort of a bit sloppy and loose, and then gets to the coast and starts to sort of get that hooking effect going, and there we go. So Icon does have the potential for an east coast low. You can see here, if I was to zoom in a bit, you can see that hooking around, and that's what we're going to watch. That's exactly what we're watching. There we go, bang. So sometime during Monday, Icon actually says it beats that next steering mechanism that EC and Axis have sort of catching. This is Alfred and sort of kicking into the west and northwest. Icon says nah, he's going to get down in time and then develops into an east coast low. Now this is just winds, but we go gusts, you can see it better, and then really starts to wind up there. Now what goes on here now, who knows. Pretty much going for it here. That's pretty classic ECL, because you can see that the strongest winds are quite displaced from the low level circulation zone, which is here. So it's a cold core as opposed to warm core. It's not overly aggressive or strong at this stage, and that's, I think, because of this next. You can see those winds here coming up from the south. That's that next system pushing through, which is really starting to hammer it. You can see how it's now going that really sort of banana-y, eggy sort of shape. That's definitely showing that he's unwinding because of those influences, and it's also predominantly because he's got this mid-level vorticity. So if I was going to go here again and show you these layers, these mid-level layers, I don't get it for gusts, sorry, you have to do winds. You'll see what I mean. We go back here, you can see the mid-levels here, and he's missing that colder air up top, which really, see them drives here. So you can see here, really strong, and you go into there, you'll see it start to get whacked around by the changes that comes through, and sort of unwind, and that's because of he's just got not enough, this stacked vorticity doesn't have, and what he needs is he needs that colder air above to really maintain that temperature differential. So you can see here, we should be seeing like this winds here should be really quite aggressive, like spinning around, and you can see that they're not, and it's because of this ridge coming in from, ridge coming in from here, actually yes, and that's actually knocking him around, and we don't have that upper level cold temperature support to really wind him up at this stage. So I mean, it's going to be sort of touch and go. Icon does like it for a couple of days into sort of Tuesday, and then sort of washing it out. As you can see, some pretty strong winds there, and they will get down flected because of activity like convection, so rain and stuff. They'll actually drive those winds to the surface. So it's still going to be pretty strong and windy, and this is what I'm saying before about where exactly he is, who's going to get the greatest effect. But again, this is just Icon, so we need to see a few more model runs, which has just been up and down, up and down, up and down. Which is why I haven't posted much about what is to come next, because every run I've checked, every run changes, and I'm just like, I am not committing to any sort of scenario at this stage until we get an idea what is coming next. And last but not least, we'll go to Get Far Away, and we'll go to see what he says here, because GFS actually sort of does back up Icon quite a bit, if I remember just briefly. We're on the surface, are we? Yeah, we need gusts. So you can see here, he's still a bit slower behind with that. And then you can see gradually quite rushing to the southeast, and this is sort of it here. And then he's a bit slower in timing, so he's going to get nicked by that. But he's still here. You can see this area here, which is linking up with what Icon had, just a little bit older, a bit delayed or a bit behind time. You can see here, again, this is that flick, that like Nike flick, which is that's definitely the indication of a trough, and whenever you get that flick, it's always going to be sort of heavy rain and stuff, because, as I said last night, the winds come racing in and they stop, and when they stop, basically everything that's been holding above the surface because of the wind helps it hold it up, get dumped. You can see here, definitely once, do an East Coast low of some sort, or some sort of low. I mean, that's definitely, it's not a very strong one, as you can see. And again, it's on the back end of this next change and ridge coming through, as you can see, because look at the winds just dragging everything up to that northwest, and so it's saying it's going to be on the right side. So I mean, as I said, everything's changing every run, and it's so hard. And then of course he comes ashore and washes out just like the other models said, and away he goes, and that's putting all over Red Rover for us. So what we'll look at now is we'll look at some rainfall forecasts. We'll see what it has for us. And then we're looking for up the north because we know it's going to be massive. So we'll start with GFS because he's the first person. We'll just drag it out to the end of the forecast. So you can see still some pretty good falls for us. That's temperatures there, so I'll just change that to the forecast where you can see, it's still 130 mils across to 80, 90, 100 mils. So some still good falls there. Not as much as dramatic as it was the other day. Of course, it's going to really depend upon that hook. And just so you can see here, GFS did have that little flick, or the nightly flick, pouring into the Illawarra. You can see, obviously, the stronger falls. So wherever that little flick's going to be. And again, too, in the upper for the hunter people, get a good evening. Definitely GFS is sending out some sort of red flags for you guys here because some very strong falls in the upper hunter. Two, I don't think it's going to be enough though to really cause, other than some maybe minor flooding and stuff. I don't think it's going to get big enough. It really depends on exactly how that interacts. Okay, so that's GFS. I'm going to bring that back so we don't get any surprises here. We'll go and look at EC now. I'm expecting EC is probably going to be a little bit washed out given what we just saw before, but we'll just live in hope. Let's see. Okay, still some good falls. Actually, I'm a bit surprised at that. Coastal Hunter, you guys can miss out, so to say, but again, there's some big falls up in the upper Hunter, especially right across those catchment areas. You can see here on the map those little squiggly lines, which is where obviously where the catchment areas are, and of course the Barringtons here and flowing down. So there's still some very good falls. 125, 130 mils at Merriwa and Candos and that sort of stuff. Probably in the back here, Candos actually comes more into our catchment areas, but still some very big falls across that escarpment and EC. So I'm surprised at that. The city, 120 mils, 120 mils, still nothing to sneeze at, better than nothing. But Illawarra is good because again, that's where the focus of EC is, a bit up in here. Like Dunedoo, 200 mils. I mean, it won't take much. So this is what I talk about, that timing. If that flips over to the eastern side as opposed to the western side, this red blob will come down through here, the Hunter and the Central Coast and the Illawarra, and probably in us and the Illawarra as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. All right, let's have a look at. I'll just bring the slider back and let's look at access, and then we'll go to icon last because obviously it's going to excuse me, the one that's going to favour rainfall the most. All right, let's access, reveal your wares. Okay, so interesting. Very interesting. So again, axis is really going where that tick is. So wherever that Nike flick was, you can see if you're north of it, not much. If you're on it or south of it, a lot. So it's going for like 170 mils in Penrith. Quite a lot in there you go, 150, 100, 200, only 200 mils across the Blue Mountains and the back Illawarra Escarpment, which is 205 mils there, 210 mils. That all goes into that area. That does, that elevates the potential for some flooding, especially since it's all across the catchment areas here. Conversely, poor old Northern Beaches would be 20, 30 mils. Mark will be fuming about that, so we better just send an email to Access and tell them to get their crap together. But again, it only takes this band to be on the eastern side of that next building steering influence, and that red comes down through here. And of course, it's still 150 mils across the upper Hunter, 130, 140 mils. That is pretty some, minor to moderate flooding in many places across the Hunter, I'd say, at this stage, if it comes off. So, there is potential there for flooding, absolutely, especially because they have such a bigger catchment area than we do down here. We have, very limited sort of catchment areas. The Hunter has that massive sort of area right across, basically you can see the escarpment, and it goes all the way up into the back here, you can see, and then flows down through here. So all this stuff up in the back of Dunedoo here is going to flow down through Merriwa, and all the back of this area here too is going to flow into that catchment area. So then that's the is that the Hunter River? I think it is actually. So yeah, I would say moderate flooding possible in the Hunter for sure. If access comes off, absolutely. If access comes off, that's the big question mark. All right. Again, last but not least, let's have a look at Icon. Alright, so Icon, of course, no surprises, is a bit more focused on the heavy falls through down thrust. Don't forget though, I'm not sure that's quite on that. It's going to have that little vorticity here. I think this is probably undercooking this a bit. Again, it's going to be very much dependent upon where you are on the flick or if that low gets going. I wouldn't say at this stage it's looking that exciting for a low, but fingers crossed for something, because otherwise But Alfred's done what Alfred's done. So again, I still think definitely some issues with the upper Hunter, especially some minor to moderate flooding of that rivers here. You can see pretty consistent across all models. There's going to be some good rainfall right up into the back here. You can see that little escarpment here, which is basically the northern end of that, and then of course the rest goes up into there's some Marundi 100 mils, Muswellbrook 100 mils, 110 mils of Singleton. That sort of stuff's all going to flow down. This area here won't affect them as much. You can see it's very short, a very short catchment. Here, let's go out. Sunny Coast does some good falls there. Again, don't get too morose and don't think, oh my god, it's all over. I mean, if I was to show you last night's run, you would do a significant difference. Again, so it's just, in fact, I think this might even be like 0.6. Yeah, there you go again. Should have got, actually while you're here, I'm going to show you because the 0.6 was much different. So bear with me while I get that off screen because you'll believe that I'm not telling the truth. Let's go. Let's go to tab here. We'll go to models. Let's go. We'll go to weather charts and I'll show you what I was talking about. So we'll go into here. I need to zoom it out a bit. So we'll go Sydney regional zoom. I think that should be enough. I think we're on that anyway. Okay, so let's go icon here. This is 0.6 there. So look at what 0 had. And I'll make sure it's got all hours, accumulated precipitation, all hours, and then voila. So you can see the huge difference already. So I would go with this rather than 6Z. So again, pretty substantial falls, 100 to 125 mils falls right across the whole slab, especially in the Hunter. I think that's going to push down a little bit more into the city and into the metro basin as well. And you can see these little blobs of intense. Again, if whatever the low does, it's potential for everybody. So, so again, this is what we should be looking at. Don't look at 0.6. 0.6 is absolute trash for rain. Again, so yes, Hunter is definitely looking at some issues. I'd say moderate flooding is definitely possible, if not likely. At that, so in those areas there, please prepare yourself. And again, it really depends upon for us exactly where it goes. Actually, I might make it bigger because it's probably a bit small for you guys, isn't it? Sorry. There we go. It's pretty bit better for you. There we go. Now to get the magnifying glass out now. Alright, so I'm going to have to scroll up though to get the next. So let's check what Access said. Actually, just check. Check on CMC. See how he's going. 0 said, so that's good. Let's go to accumulated preset. We'll just go all hours. So there you go. What I was saying, like, this is how freaking frustrated it is because you see two pretty good models. CMC is a good model too, and it's very good with vorticities. There we go. So we've got problems for the Hunter and problems for us. It's simple as that. Illawarra is not too bad. 250 mils up there, not so much bad for sort of downstream here, although there is some falls down here. This is going to be sort of downstream here again. Colo, up those places, Colo Heights, stuff like that. This doesn't take much to slip down to here. So again, this is the frustrations I've got in trying to do this because you can see everything is going to swing back and forward and it's going to give different outcomes. So, but definitely the Hunter's looking pretty moderate risk, I'd say, for moderate flooding. Alright, let's check. We'll check. We'll see the UK Met's throwing out. I think it's on 12Z now, is it? Yeah. Beautiful. And we'll go to accumulated precipitation. Akumatana. Come on, let's go. Alright, and all, please. There. So you see what I'm saying? Like, the dramatic difference in just two models is just annoying and it's insane. And so which one do you go with? Neither. You sort of smooth them out. But still, I think, as I said, the Hunter is still looking at some moderate flooding risk, moderate flooding of the Hunter River for sure. Again, because you can see this stuff here on the very sort of northern and eastern periphery of the Hunter, but still that flows down through you guys, and some of that does go into the Barringtons, into Dungog and that sort of stuff out that way. But this stuff does come down to the Hunter, so still potential there even on UK Met. Alright, let's go and have a look at the AIFs, which is the new AI model for EC, and we'll see what it's saying. For accumulated precipitation, let's go, come on, it is a bit slow, so if it does spaz out a bit, that's why. I think that's it, everything. Yeah, you can see in the height and risk, it's not really into it. This is the Bureau's model, which runs MET-I. So let's have a look. And it's very slow. So do forgive me. It seems to take like 15 hours to load, because it will take 15 hours to load. There you go. Okay, well, interesting. There you go. So it's already proving my point about the differences in the different model interpretations. Let's go. Give us all, and it's not even fully downloaded yet, which worries me. And it's 062, it's 062, which is the crappy one. But you can see there's definitely issues for the Hunter. Moderate flooding, I think, definitely minor to moderate flooding for sure of the Hunter River. And again, we're not out of the neck of the woods here in the metro either. You can see it does bring up quite a lot of precipitation. So this is the struggle I have every day, trying to think what the hell is this going to do. GFS has a new AI model out. Let's have this for a laugh. Oh, it doesn't have any rainfall. What a shame. Okay, so we've done these ones there. These are just cyclonal ones. We've done that. We'll try UC again. I don't think we did that, did we? Sometimes and this is the other thing, sometimes I get different results on here than I do on windy, which really drives me bonkers every time. And there you go, straight away. It's totally different to what we saw on windy. Totally different. I don't know what's going on. I don't think that says to me, like, it's not all over everybody, and there's still like definitely some major problems for the Hunter now. If that, and that won't take much to have that blob come towards us. So I don't know. I think there's something going on with windy and its model, because that shows completely like Northern Beach is getting smashed. Whatever. Far out. Okay, well, there you go. So it's not a lot of red rover yet. So Ahmed, if you're on, you can probably put those two tissues away and stop crying a little bit and still risk. Alright, let's check out what Axis is going to say, because if that's completely different to what Wendy was showing us, that is a real worry that the rest. And there you go. So, hello anybody. Northern Beach is here, but look at that. That's a worry in itself. And Hunter, definitely a worry for you guys. Sorry to say, definitely some moderate flooding possible right across the whole swag of place of Hunter. That's going to be awful against the Hunter. The coast, we're going to think, what's going on? And next thing the Hunter will be raging through the main street. We think, oh, where'd that come from? Again, won't take much of this blob to come across to us, so ignore that little this least of resistance area here. It's really going to depend on exactly what happens with Alfred, so don't get too morose, but that's pretty significant, I would say. I'm surprised we pretty may see a flood threat warning come out very soon, I would imagine. If that's the case, we'll check the website, maybe not till tomorrow morning, maybe, because this is pretty studying for a Sunday and Monday. Alright, who are we? GFS for a laugh, let's go. Accumulated Mahana, Kuna Matana. And let's go all, just to make sure that's all in. Okay, there you go. So, again, GFS favouring the Illawarra, which is what we saw, because we had that little, you see this hook here, which is that hook of that, but still, coastal Sydney, especially up to 200 mils, basically, Northern Beaches, so Mark will be very happy about that. Again, still there's some pressure on the catchment, so not so bad though for the Hunter. So, and I swear though that we saw the other one when you said it was Hunter was probably under sort of more moderate threat from GFS. I have no idea what is going on with this stuff, and it is 0Z2. So, all right, so we've looked at it all. Okay, quick questions time, and then I have to go and eat. So we'll put this back on here. We'll put this slideshow back on. Actually, no. We'll put radar back on. Let's go back to windy. It's probably a better, actually, bugger windy. It's going to screw me over like that. We'll go to radar here, and we'll put Brisbane on and see what it's doing here. I'll make it nice and big for you. We don't want to accumulate precipitation, you douche. We want actual proper radar. And we'll turn the satellite picture off because no one wants to see a black picture. And we go up to 192 because it'll give us enough to go out to sea. And we'll turn the radar on because that might be helpful as well. And we'll go off Doppler. That might be helpful as well. Alright, let's go in the background. Don't want 12 hours. Let's go an hour. Keep it nice and fresh. And then we'll do some questions. And I'll make it a bit smaller so it fits in. There you go. There's a beautiful picture of the eye though. You can see way still out there off the coast. And here comes that southern blob that I was warning you about. Here it comes. It's on its way. So if you're thinking, oh, it's not rain here yet, it's coming. It is coming. Alright, questions time. Let's go. Thank you so much for your hanging around and listening to me. Alright. Stack for Tussie sounds like a strong Pokemon move. Yeah, a beautiful. I think that Claire is an excellent summary. G'day Kelly, congratulations on your anniversary for the CSA. Decent round in the Blue Mountains, I agree. Big falls out behind her, not big enough to be concerned. I think Troy, looking at the last lot, yes, it is big enough to be concerned. I don't know what's going on between Windy, what its resolution is, but it did not show what we saw just then. Nancy, congratulations on your anniversary as well, and also thank you so much for being a top fan. Really haven't been much rain here, I'm not sure what it's about. I worry about Lismore, I think Peter, it looks worrying. The only thing might give him a bit of a reprieve maybe is that clink to the north now, but then look at that radar and you can see that real band of absolute crap coming in, so I'm not sure. Seeing the ABC feeds, the CB is already flooding as pumps are struggling. Where was that? Lismore, yep, okay. Thanks for that, Thomas. Thank you, and good evening to you. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well. In downtown Campbelltown, eastern suburbs. I just covered that, Karen. Hopefully you heard that one sing. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm not sure that's a reference to. G'day, Glenn. Hope you enjoy watching your Tigers lose. I mean, win. G'day, Blisters. What's that? Where's Blisters? Oh, it turns out when it's all over. No, he's been out watching the footy, Troy. Yeah, don't give him too much a hard time. Glenn's been out on the turrets, watching his blood Tigers take one on the chin again. No, I don't know. Did they win, Glenn? Let us know in the comments if they won for a change, unlike all the last year. How's Stormcat doing? He is off sleeping. Haven't actually heard him meowing at my door to come in and say hello to everybody, so he's probably a bit peeved at me. Is it still category 2? Yes, at this stage. Is Southern Sydney probably okay? Just can't tell, Claire. Can't tell at the moment. On those recent those rains we just looked at, it looks like it's still potentially on for us yet. The answer, no. Yeah. Well, nature does know what's going on. So, look beside the Hunts River and seen it all before. I'm sure you have. Upper Hunter going to complet. Yeah, Brendan, congratulations on your anniversary as well. But yes, the Upper Hunter is going to cop it. Looking at all, if you combine most of them, absolutely. G'day Blake Lamoth, who is in the Gold Coast. Good luck. Thank you. You got 26 beers. I mean, that wouldn't so. How many standard drinks can I have before it's safe to leave the house? I got more booze. Asking for a friend. See the boat floats. Away you go. Swim. Yeah, the problem is you pretty could swim. Thank you so much, Peter, for that. Central Coast, it's going to be up and down. Like us, it's going to really depend upon exactly where it goes. You're going to be getting a little bit wet by the sounds of things. Ashley, Goonbag, don't encourage him, Alicia. You probably will. Alright. Oh, they lost. Oh, well, that's true. That's not bad. Thank you so much for the stars one. Again, greatly appreciate it. Well, Barry, you and Glenn can actually commiserate together. Although 2 points is actually an impressive effort, so good on the Tigers. I hope they do get some wins. You know, a strong NRL is a strong Western Sydney team, so we need them to get up and get going. Trout Waders, he's got a canoe, so you can probably go out in the canoe and get some grog. They've probably got drive-through open. Bulldog supporter, Peter, you are a long-suffering fan, no doubt. Pre-late version, but it's good to hear engaged in some banter. Oh, I'll bring the banter, don't worry about that. Alright, any quick questions before I go and eat dinner? Because they who must be obeyed are giving me the glares in the back of my head. They are hungry, and I don't blame them. They got home from work, they didn't finish work until just after 7, so I rushed back and got on here to prep for you guys, so I need to hop off and feed a dog a bone. Any further questions about anybody? No. Alright, so great to have you all on board. I will keep an eye on radar, obviously keep you updated about what he's crossing. I think it's going to be early in the morning. Thank you to Mr. Angela Gando. Appreciate that. And I will keep you updated as to what he's doing, what the crossing is. If he's crossing early morning, I ain't getting up. I need some sleep, because if that models are coming correct about the potential East Coast layout, looks like we're going to be hanging out together early next week, which is going to be great. Regarding a live on Saturday, I'll let you all know what the model's doing. I do have my sister down from Alice Springs, who's down at the moment. So she just advised me before, so I'm going to try and catch up with her tomorrow. But if she hits the Venus, which she probably will, I will be heading home anyway, so I may hop on and do a quick update for you tomorrow night. I'll keep you updated during the day tomorrow. But definitely will be on Sunday if it's looking like it's going to be on. Absolutely, I'll keep your eyes on the page. I'll publicise it, let you know. Otherwise, look at the surfers in the Goldie in South East Queensland, North East New South Wales. It's going to get pretty hectic soon. Goldie and Brisbane areas, you're going to suffer, I'm sorry, for another 24 hours at least. And then you should start to see some reprieve late Saturday night or early Sunday morning, and so then you got the clean up, and hopefully you haven't got a beach in your front yard. Everybody take, you're most welcome, Maxine, everybody. Goon of Fortune, I love that. 8 a.m. is your guest. Ashley, I should have taken you for some coin last night. I would have been a rich man. Thank you so much, Mr. Sharp. I would love to get those pictures. Mr. Lamoff's going to send me some pictures and video too if he's not too smashed and he can actually hold his phone up straight. Otherwise, have a great evening and take care, be kind to one another. And see you on the flip side. I'm sure that's going to be pretty soon, I imagine, because yeah, it's looking interesting for us. Please, 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 please let us see something. We deserve it. We've been long suffering. We had to put up with this crap. Anyway, look after yourselves. And I'm going to leave you some inspirational music.